morning, everyone. My name is Vincent Hinton, and I am an assistant professor in the College of Ed here at Alabama State University, but I'm also the NCATE director or NCATE coordinator for the College of Ed. Specifically, the diversity chair is the area that I focus on as a part of the NCATE team. And this year, we wanted to do something different with our students, our faculty, and our staff in the College of Ed. And so what we're doing today in this semester is presenting what we call Courageous Conversations. So Courageous Conversations is an initiative where we wanted to make sure that our students and our faculty and our staff are engaged with each other on various topics. And we do know that sometimes the conversations and the topics can be somewhat uncomfortable. But what we're hoping today is that we create a safe environment this morning as well as this afternoon that would allow us to have those conversations that we are sometimes fearful to have around other people that we may not know. The College of Education, we define diversity as the differences among groups of people and individuals based on gender, socioeconomic status, exceptionalities, geographical areas to include national, international areas, ethnicity, race, language, sexual orientation, and religion. And our goal is that we have these type of conversations, assignments, and discussions throughout all of our courses in the College of Ed, but also on campus as well. So I stated earlier our purpose for Courageous Conversations, and our goal is to provide a safe place for all to learn and grow, respecting the thoughts, opinions, and behaviors of all. Hence the conversation, being courageous. So today we're focusing on creativity and diversity. We'll have our morning session and we'll have our evening session this afternoon at 5:45. We're very fortunate to collaborate with different partners on campus, colleges on campus. We'll have representation from the College of Visual and Performing Arts, Professor Atkinson. This afternoon, and possibly this morning, we'll also have representation from the College of Ed, Dr. Caldwell. Also this morning and this afternoon joining us is Dr. Deanna Henderson from the College of Rehabilitation Studies. And then we'll also have some students to speak, not only when Professor Atkinson comes before you to share a little bit about what's happening in the College of Visual and Performing Arts, but then also we'll hear a piece, some research that is, from some students and I as it relates to parents with children with special needs. We also wanted to bring to your attention that our next conversation will be March 19th. It'll be only at 5:45 in the evening. That particular conversation will focus on gender issues and the LGBT population, so we hope that you'll come back and join us in March as well. Throughout the College of Ed, you'll also see signs like this posted. Again, we wanted to make sure that we're aggressive in letting the students know that we have safe places for them to talk to faculty and to staff. So for any student that may see this particular sign on an office door or throughout the building, that's an indication to let you know that that person is someone that if you have an issue related to diversity that you would like to speak with someone, that they'll be willing to talk to you about whatever that concern may be. When you came in this morning, you should have received a handout. This particular handout kind of speaks to some of the things that we're doing, but we also know that being an academic setting that we want to find out what you know and looking at ways that we can improve. So if you would, before you leave, complete both sides of this particular assessment, if you will, with the information at the top, and then also address the areas at the bottom that relate to your comfort when it comes to diversity. So you'll see a list of items to the left. And if you would, check, for example, if you are comfortable with speaking with other people as it relates to race, you can check extremely comfortable, comfortable, uncomfortable, or extremely uncomfortable. Look at those key items and address your level of comfort or not as it relates to those areas. And then on the back, as you know, the students, we're asking all of you to complete a one-page reflection on your experience throughout the semester. So if you would, look at those items on the back side of the page and to address if you strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. And then finally, if you would, just share with us something that we can do differently by way of something that you want to know more about. And as we continue to have conversations like this, this school year, possibly during the summer, and definitely next fall, we want to make sure that we listen to what you have to say and provide you with the resources and an avenue to share your thoughts and feelings about whatever the topics may be. So finally, there's one thing I want you to do before I introduce Professor Atkinson from the College of Visual and Performing Arts. If you would, if you're sitting in your seat, I want you to just to reach for me. So if you're reaching, now reach a little bit higher. All right, so how many of you in the room, when I asked you to reach a little bit higher, you actually did reach a little bit higher? Absolutely, I see by your hands and your nods. That's what we're hoping our conversations are about. Sometimes when you're in a situation, it can be uncomfortable, but what we're hoping is that you'll stretch yourself a little bit beyond your comfort level so that you can learn from others, so that you can grow. And I'd like to leave you with this quote. You can only see the world through the world that you know. You can only see the world through the world that you know. And we're hoping that through these conversations that we can expand your world, expand those that you may know on campus, those that you may know in the community, so that you can start looking at the world through a different set of lenses. All right, so at this time, I'd like to introduce Professor Atkinson from the College of Visual and Performing Arts.
I'll just stop it here. Good morning. How are you? Thank you for allowing our college to be a part of your programming this morning. I'm the co-artistic director of Eclectic Dance Company. We're presenting this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. I encourage students to take our upcoming production of My Soul is Back in Wonder. This morning you're going to see excerpts of that work entitled Oh Freedom, choreographed by myself and performed by Jalen Gavin. Some of our upcoming events will be Flying West, which is going to take place this spring. And once again, I hope you enjoy this excerpt.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord
Thank you so much, Professor Atkinson, and to Jalen for being here this morning. Let's give them another round of applause. One of the things that we wanted to do through the collaboration of different colleges on campus is to remind ourselves the importance of collaboration, but also the importance of all of our students bringing their whole self to everything that they do. And I'm so thankful for having Jalen here this morning, because how often do we get to see a trained dancer, a trained male dancer, performing for us? So let's give him another round of applause. At this time, there are a couple people in the audience that I did ask if they would do something for me. So at this time, if you guys would do that for me, and I'm going to ask our students if they would come forward at this time. The counseling students, if they would come forward at this time. A few years ago, I did some research with a professor in Birmingham, and what we wanted to do is to look at the views of parents with children with special needs. And so, as you know, with research, sometimes it can be challenging, but what we hope today is that we will bring to you a creative way to look at introducing research, more specifically qualitative research. So what you're going to see today is the findings from parents that were part of a qualitative study as it relates to having children with special needs. Dr. Henderson is going to come forward towards the end of our program and share us some additional insight and terminology from the work that she does with students in the rehabilitation department. I will share with you that there may be times you may hear things that may not be or sound correct. What we're sharing with you are the findings from the participants in the study. So what we share with you is the actual recordings of what they shared during the research study. So at this time, I present to you, we need more options.
When you are a parent of a child with special needs, you experience life in ways that other parents do, but life is more exasperated.
More pronounced.
More. Just more everything.
More time, more patience, more understanding, more attention.
More academically, more socially, more at home, more at school.
When you are a parent of a child with special needs, you experience life in ways that other parents do, but it's just more. Now we will present to you the parents' views on academics. He wants to drive. He's not old enough, but limited reading skills affect his ability to take the driving test to get his own license. He's got to pass, but he's got to read first. I just need help for my child.
I'm more frustrated that he has no alternatives. I'm encouraging him. He's not dumb. He's not stupid. He needs something, someone he can vent to. When you decide that you don't want the school, it's almost like you're forced to take it. There's no other place. Some children are left behind. My son has gotten to the point he don't care about education. I'm not going to force him. I'm not going to whoop him anymore. I just ask the school prepare him for the workplace. He's rebelling. What do you do when school don't want you no more and you don't want your school? He needs alternatives.
Severe speech delays, severe tantrums, overstimulated in a crowded place, like a theme park, too many people, too many colors, too many activities, makes him scream to gain control of himself. Needs transition, needs conformity, needs routine, needs construction in the action, needs more intervention time. I want people to understand this about him. I want teachers to understand this about him.
Now we will present to you the parents' reaction as it relates to other children.
Other children can be cruel. His nickname at school is different. Can't get right, they call him. And I tell him, it's get right. Get right is your name. Other children can be cruel.
He gets picked on by a bully at school. Everything ain't fine. Knocked self-esteem, where he don't want to do anything. They hurt each other's feelings. Other children can be cruel.
She's quiet, get picked on. She's been in a fight. Little boy had been doing a lot of name calling. Other kids provoke. Other children can be cruel.
They want to have friends, but they're shunned. He's trying to fit in, he can't fit in. He wants to belong, now to games. Trying to fit in with other kids, sagging and stuff, other children can be cruel.
Now we will present to you the parents' reaction when it relates to the school.
Substitute, babysitters, special aid workers, uninformed, unqualified teachers in school. My child is being left behind.
Contradictions,
Policy,
contradictions.
practice.
Supposed to have an aide,
We find out that he didn't have an aide.
part of class physically.
Mainstreaming only by parents.
Same stuff every year, again and again.
Different books.
Problems in school for months.
I'm not informed.
Call me,
You can't just be calling the classroom.
visit.
You can't come up, and visit to the school because it had to be the teacher's time.
Only hear stuff after the fact.
That's the parent's perception.
Got an IEP?
We don't know who his case manager is. We've never been assigned him.
Got an application for track, so he could be involved.
Filled out the application, but no response.
Got an IEP?
A right to visit, not welcoming, rude, condescending. I felt rushed most of the time at school.
Assistant teacher helping my child spell
Medicine.
MEDISON.
What is the aide teaching him at school?
Contradictions,
Communication,
conflict,
confusion.
Now we'll present to you the parents' point of view. Confused parents, confused teachers, confused policy. Who knows what and where and how? I'm frustrated. We started to demand appropriate learning for our child. I despise just talking about something for so long and not getting results. I'm now talking to other people about available resources for my child, trying to get access to any possible thing that could help my child. Nobody's standing up for our kids right now today. I'm the advocate for my child. Now we will present to you what works.
To the school, he's got to be challenged.
You can call me, that's why you have my number.
Conference is needed with me.
Use a composition book. Make daily comments.
Expect initial assignments.
Prepare my son for the job force.
Find someone at school for my child to go to talk to right then when he has trouble.
Organize a special group for kids who have problems socializing.
Design cooperative efforts with other programs.
Be more aggressive about getting resources or bringing resources into the school.
The school can still offer a better product than what they've been doing.
Provide up-to-date professional development for teachers.
Provide references and resource literature for parents.
To the parent,
Find what works best for them, then insist on that being a part of your educational program.
Make addendums to the plan. Need to go back and make some changes. Do it.
Ongoing conversations with parents of special needs children gives me a greater sense of sensitivity.
We're all participating in the process.
Be visible, be active, be heard. Thank you. So one of the things that we hope that you will gain from hearing the piece is that we know that our students will be working not only with parents of special needs children, but also working with those children on a daily basis. In our classrooms, we try to present literature in an academic way, and we hope that what you heard today was presented in a creative way, that you'll be able to take that as a tool back to your classroom and look at ways that you can present material as well. So one thing that I'd like to do before we share a video is just to find out if there's anyone in the audience that has any questions, but I also like to probe the question, is there anyone in the audience that has ever experienced working with a child with a disability, a special needs, or either a parent that you've had to work with, or if you are currently a parent that may be working with a child or a family member with a special need or disability. Yes, ma'am. We have a microphone right there.
I want to make a comment. I worked as a high school guidance counselor for years, and it always bothered me that the public school system, some public school systems, should I say, do not have anyone that can work with students with special needs, that have special needs. And I oftentimes become very frustrated when I see legislature fighting to get charter schools. And it always comes to mind, are they so removed from the system that they can't come up with a creativity to have a school for special needs? And I haven't seen that in legislature yet, but they fight for charter schools. And we're forever having an increase of students, should I say, with special needs. And it just often bothers me because I worked in the system, and we do not have what you call a system that can really relate to the study that has just been brought to us, to just honestly, with integrity. And we don't have people with a platform to the legislature to raise holy blank blank with them and to get this to come. So my prayer is that hopefully we, with this modern technology and with all of this and that, we will see a transformation of a program that's designed to meet the needs of parents that were discussed and many more parents that were discussed. Recently, I had a person that was very close to me, had to take a child out of public school system because they just didn't have a program. She had to work, she's a single parent. And so it was just the grace of the Lord that this private school came up, a Catholic program that meet the needs of this special needs child. And again, I say, hopefully, with prayer, that we would have a program where we would have legislatures discussing the fact that it's time that we stop playing games and have a program that's designed to meet the needs of special needs students and to help those parents matriculate through the system to get the help that's needed. Because it's very frustrating, and then what is happening, if it doesn't affect you, many people can't feel it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Oftentimes we may say to ourselves, well, that's not my issue, so I don't have to worry about it. Recently, I teach the students in the internship course that are counselors in training. And one of the students shared with me is that she really wished that there was something available to parents through the agency that she works for, because this particular parent, she works for the Department of Human Resources, and this particular parent turned the child in, went through the proper channels to a family court, stated that the child was in need of supervision, and she wanted to release all of her responsibilities as a parent. But she said that she really wished that there was some type of system in place so that the parents could get what they needed before they released their parental rights and turned them over, because what she said at this point, that it's going to be far more challenging for her to resume those rights as a parent, or to go through the process to become a parent again once she's released her rights as a parent. So, as Dr. King stated, it sounds like we have a lot of work to do, but I'm glad that we have good people in place and colleagues in place and the staff so that we can continue to have this type of conversation. One of the things I like to do now is to share with you a brief video before Dr. Henderson comes forward. I'm going to ask those same participants, if they would, to help me out with this particular scenario, and then we'll call on them as a part of our discussion in just a second.
Definitely UK country. Oh, if the UK's on, forget it. Everything stops till the game's over.
It's a lot of fun. We sit together and have good family time. Marlena! What? Come on, the game's coming on. Right here. Put the seat down, okay? At first, she really didn't pay, a lot of attention to it. And then, when we watched the game, she'd finally sit with us.
There it is, here it is, here it is.
Three. It's
Three-pointer.
Basketball, in my case, means the crowd, cheerleaders, sometimes their shoes squeak. I just want to listen to people.
She had all 10 fingers and all 10 toes. And we started noticing that she wouldn't respond to light or movement or anything like that. That's when we found out that she was blind. It's basically the optic nerve didn't develop.
She didn't walk until she was like probably 3 before she started walking. And then they, did some tests and stuff. They're the one that told us that she had cerebral palsy.
I look different to people. A lot of classmates in my school are taller than me, and I'm mixed among them. And I've got the booming voice.
She always loved the cheers and stuff, and so I thought, well, she can cheerlead like anybody else.
She loved the cadences. She loved all the little movements that they done.
We were doing cheer, blue and white, blue and white. The other people were dancing, and I wasn't getting it. I love it when people get loud and proud. C-A-T-S, cats, cats, cats. I mean, I love it.
I had received a couple of emails. Just a couple of people had said, "Hey, you've got to have this girl. It's tough to explain to people why she's so special." I reached back out to one of the folks who had sent her name, and I said, "Okay, let's get her in here."
So we just really take pride in that she's part of our family. She's part of the Big Blue Nation.
I think it gets everybody charged up. I don't think there's any doubt about it. It's inspiring.
That's how she supports the team. That's her contribution to the team.
How does it make you feel when you get invited to UK?
Pumped up.
And now please join Marlena Van Hoos in the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through
have any initial thoughts in seeing that? There are two students that have been sitting in our dialogue.
Best students in sports.
Sorry about that. There are two students that have been a part of our dialogue this morning, and our desire is to have a dialogue. So I'm going to ask those two students if they would come forward this time and just kind of share a little bit about their initial thoughts on what I asked them to do, and anything that they'd like to share in this safe place as it relates to that experience. As they come forward, I'm going to share with you, I asked these two students to wear a pair of sunglasses. And the sunglasses were darkened on the inside, and we know that sunglasses are already designed to protect or to block out the sun. But I also darkened them a little bit more just so that the experience could be somewhat challenging for them. And so at this time, I just would like to ask them what the experience was like from the beginning, even having to wear the sunglasses to having to hear and observe and watch the video with the sunglasses on, and having watched the video, if their experience has changed at all as it relates to what you experienced this morning. And either one of you, whoever chooses, would like to go first.
Hello. It was harder for me to like concentrate, like watching the videos. It was like I couldn't really pay attention. I was like trying to figure out what was going on, like through the darker side, and it was like kind of playing with my brain, like giving me a headache, kind of trying to look through the side that wasn't blacked out, and then the side that was. So it was like it was harder for me to concentrate, harder for me to pay attention to what was going on.
So what would be your thoughts as it relates to others that may have a visual impairment, or what their experience may be like, or anyone with any type of disability where it's one that we can observe and see, or those that we may not be able to see?
Well, of course, like with a disability, it's harder for you to do different things. I feel like they have to work harder, and they're actually working harder than people who don't have a disability, and I feel like they are stronger for that, or working harder as individuals.
So it's almost like maybe if they lost something, that they may gain that what they lost in another area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause.
Good morning. When I had these glasses on and we saw the video, it like put me like in the point like where she stands, because like when she talked about the basketball game, I had to picture like a basketball game going on in my head, because I couldn't see because I had my glasses on plus this, so it was just like my whole, it was just like that for real for me. So I had to picture like a basketball going on in my head, her singing a song in the middle of the floor, and just, but I want to say it was hard and difficult, but most thing is like when you lose one sense, then your other sense comes stronger. So like while I was acting like I was looking at it, I was hearing everything. So basically, you grow another sense.
All right. Thank you so much. I did want to share with you, there's a colleague, an experience that I had here with a colleague who has a disability. And one of the things that I learned is that oftentimes people would want your help, but then sometimes through their experience of what they may be dealing with by way of whatever their disability may be, they still want to hold on to their independence. So for me, extending my hand of help, on one extreme, I felt rejection, but at the same time, I realized that they're just wanting to hold on, that they may need the help, but they want to hold on to their independence, and they want to solve whatever the issue or problem that they may be focusing on at that time on their own. We know at the College of Ed that when we send students out into the field, that you have to make accommodations and make plans for different students that you may be working with, your faculty and colleagues at that particular school. But how many of us have ever gone into a supermarket or gone into Walmart and we saw someone that may have been struggling with their wheelchair? How many of us will stop to help them, or how many of us will continue on with our daily activities? I'm going to share this story, and then I'm going to ask Dr. Henderson to come forward. My brother, who has had vision for majority of his life, lost his vision in his right eye about 5 years ago. And one of the things that we would often do when we see each other, we may not say hello, but we'll kind of fist bump. I can walk in, I see him somewhere, I put out my fist, he'll hit mine, we'll go on throughout our day. And I never forget leaving once after visiting with my parents, I just kind of put my fist out, but I didn't feel his fist hit mine. And so I said, "You're gonna leave me hanging?" His initial response to me was, "You know I can't see out of that side of my eye." So as I was driving back home, I had a pair of sunglasses, hence the activity, and I darkened one side of it. And it made me in that moment realize what he was going through. And I can only imagine, having lived the majority of life with your vision, to lose your vision in one eye and what his experience is now like. And so I wanted the students, and for those of you that may leave today, to think about those activities, but also think about other people that you may be working with so that you can start to see their world through a different set of lenses. So this time I'd like to bring forward Dr. Henderson. She is representing the College of Rehabilitation Studies. I'm sorry, College of Health Sciences.
Good morning. I'm a bit tall. I don't know if this microphone is tall enough for me. Can you all hear me? Okay, wonderful. I would like to applaud Mr. Hinton, and I really don't need to stand behind the podium. I would like to applaud Mr. Hinton for having the foresight to have such courageous conversations here on the campus of Alabama State University. This topic today is pretty near and dear to my heart. I am in the College of Health Sciences. I'm a professor in the Department of Rehabilitation Studies. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor, and what CRCs do is we work with individuals with disabilities on a regular basis. And so in the college, I teach my students how to work with individuals with disabilities. And so the conversation today brought out some very unique points, I would say, about parents of children with disabilities, as well as what we as society think about individuals with disabilities. And since this is my area of expertise, I kind of have a different take on some of the things that were shared, and I kind of want to share that with you. This is not what Mr. Hinton asked me to talk about today, but listening to the conversation, I think we need to have more of these types of conversations, and I think people need to understand the laws, the services that are out there to help individuals with disabilities. So Dr. King brought up a very excellent point. She said, why don't we have schools for individuals with disabilities? Most people might ask that question. Why don't we have schools for individuals with disabilities? Does anybody besides Dr. Joseph know the answer to that in the audience? Yes, ma'am. I forget you.
Dr. Caldwell.
Dr.
It
Caldwell.
used to be that we did separate out special needs students, and they were neglected, and they could receive services. And then the way it came that they would be integrated or mainstreamed.
So there's legislation out there. We call it IDEA. It's the Individual with Disability in Education Act for Children with Disabilities. And what it says is that we are going to provide free and appropriate education for children with disabilities. And these children will go to school with what we call, and I'm putting this in quotation marks, normal children or children without disabilities, and be educated in that manner. I think one of the challenges that's faced by the education system, as Dr. King alluded to, is the lack of knowledge for those who are servicing our children. The problem with that is that parents need to understand the laws that are out there to assist children with disabilities in the educational setting. Okay, so there's a law that says they are entitled to a free and appropriate education and all of the services that is going to help them obtain that education. And so when we are working with parents, we need to be informed and we need to be able to educate parents so they understand the law and they can advocate appropriately and and effectively for their child. We don't need a separate school to separate them out. The problem with that is it leads to what we call attitudinal barriers. There are several attitudinal barriers that children and people with disabilities face. One of those barriers is pity. People pity them, or that superhero kind of effect, that they're so amazing because they have this disability and they're able to do a task that us people without disabilities are able to do. Well, that is not the right way to do it. They're not so amazing that because they have this disability, or despite this disability, they're able to succeed. Success is everybody's for the taking. If we provide the appropriate services to those individuals, they will be successful. Yes, and that's why we have people like CRCs and people who work in the special education system to help these individuals. And so I want us to be aware of the laws that govern this policy and practice in the United States. Once students leave high school or elementary, middle, and high school, they come to college. We hope they get here. And when they get here, they're also entitled to services on campus. And we here at ASU have a disability services office over in the student center that students with disabilities can go and access those services. But again, it's all about knowledge of the services that are available to those students, as well as the laws that govern those services. And so I really want us to talk a little bit about that. And I think we need to have more conversations about disability, because it's clear that a lot of people are unaware of these laws, these services, and the appropriate way to go about it. Before I move forward, are there any questions on anything that I've said? Yes, ma'am, Dr. King.
I'm so glad that you make us aware of this. Being a former guidance counselor, I remember when that came about, they wanted to keep everybody on the same campus. And I guess maybe I should have said that there should be stronger programs that address the needs within the boundaries of a regular school system. And it is, it feels to be separating out.
Yes,
we
ma'am.
also think that you should have some options where it's a bona fide program that's designed to meet those needs of those parents who are not aware of the law and the regulations. And I thank you so very much for clarifying that. And I really, my mind was going so fast, and I'm just saying that they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Get those schools, let us pull it up where it could be. But you are so right, and I thank you so very much.
No problem, Dr. King. I don't know what the time is. Oh, okay. So we talked about Mr. Hinton. Mr. Hinton talked about they had the research, and that was excellent. You know, I really appreciate that aspect of that. Yes, that was excellent. One point I want to mention is that Mr. Hinton and I had the conversation about this, about how language has evolved. And in their research, they said parents of children with special needs. And what we say today is parents of children with disabilities. We don't necessarily call it special needs, special services, and things of that nature. We talk about parents of children with disabilities or people with disabilities. And we call that, I know there are some rehab students here, so what do we call that type of language?
Person-first language.
Person-first language. And the purpose of person-first language is to denote respect for individuals with disabilities. The problem when we use that type of language is that we believe that these individuals are less than. We believe that they are not able to do. We believe that they always need help. We believe all these negative things about these individuals, and that is not the truth. These individuals are people first. Their disability is just one characteristic of who they are. Who in here would like to be known by a characteristic? I would not like to be known as a fat That is not what I want somebody to call me when I walk into a room. I want them to call me Dr. Henderson. The same thing with most of us. We don't want to be identified by one characteristic of who we are. And that disability is only one small part of who they are. Until we as a society move beyond the label, we're going to be stuck in this same rut. And we're going to treat individuals with disabilities like they are less than. And I think here on this campus, again, I applaud Mr. Hinton, but we need to have more conversations about this because this is important. This is a large portion of our society. One, and I believe it is 5 individuals in the United States have a disability. It's a lot of people. Over 56 million people in the United States. We don't want to minimize their contributions to society simply because they have a disability. And so I want us to continue to have the courageous conversations for people to speak out about what they know, what they don't know, because when we speak, honestly, we learn and we grow. I do have information here about the 10 Commandments about communicating with individuals, bless you, with disabilities that I would certainly like to hand out. This talks about some of those things. Thank you, Dr. King. This talks about some of those things I've been speaking about today. You know, when someone has a sign language interpreter, how many of us know who are we to look at when we're carrying a conversation with someone who may have an interpreter with them? The person, not the interpreter. So you speak to the person, not the interpreter. That's who you're having the conversation with. The interpreter is just a part of that communication for the individual. When you introduce yourself to someone, we usually do what? Shake hands or fist bump. Okay. You still want to extend your hand to someone who may not have a full length. Thank you. And Mr. Hinton made a very good point. When you go out and you see people who have a disability, oftentimes we want to help, right? Yeah. Well, we ask them if they need our help. If they say yes, we help them. If they say no, we say okay, and we keep on moving. You don't force your help upon somebody. That is taking away their right to be independent. We don't like it when our parents and friends are not independent. I know I'm grown. I tell my mom this all the time. Mommy, I'm grown. I can do this. Same way with people with disabilities. We don't want to treat them like they are children and they cannot do for themselves, that they cannot be independent. Go straight to my next point, or their next point. Treat adults as adults. Everybody deserves respect. Address people with disabilities by their first name if we're addressing everyone by their first name. If we're being formal, Mr., Mrs., Doctor, that is the way we treat individuals with disabilities. When someone has a wheelchair, oftentimes people want to hang on their wheelchair, put stuff on their wheelchair. If they have a service animal, they want to pet their animal. It's not your personal space, that's their personal space. That's things we do not do. Be mindful that people may treat their chair as an extension of them, just like you don't want someone in your personal space, don't get in their personal space. Now, I know I'm speaking, I hope I'm speaking clearly and you can understand me, but sometimes people don't speak clearly that have a disability. Listen attentively. If you need clarification, ask. Don't assume you know what they're saying. Ask them. And then repeat it back to them so that you know you got what they were trying to get out. If you're talking to someone who's in a wheelchair, and I'm sometimes, I've been guilty of this. You're standing kind of above them. Bring yourself down, maybe sit in a chair to eye level so that they don't have to strain to look at what you're saying. And I know sometimes we don't even think about things like that. If someone has a hearing disability, tap them on their shoulder to make sure you get their attention before you just start speaking to them. Because they may miss the entire first part of what you're saying. But that's just so that you can be respectful have to say. Last but not least, and I tell my students this all the time, relax. We slip up, we make mistakes. It's okay, but if you're trying to be respectful, I think your respect will come across to the person with a disability, and they will be a little gracious with you in the way that they interact with you. Any questions about anything that I've said today?
Dr. Henderson and Lady, I just want to comment on that. Florida University has a center for the needs of those students, and they had to change the name of it. I think they had something once upon a time earlier. They had to change it to Learning and Development Center.
I like that.
So they had to do that before. A lot of students coming from the high schools into the college arena were, really ashamed of the fact that they did it, and they felt that other people would label it. And so they changed that name. And I worked in that center. And it's a joy when you can get those students to come through the front door of that Learning Development Center. One of the young men in that center, mom was a senator, and she wrote a proposal. And that's how Florida A&M University got this program to cater to the needs of learning disability. That child became a United States Senator. We also had a pro football player to come out of that center. We also had school teachers to come out of that center. And so when it goes back to labeling, that's what happened. They were ashamed in high school because they talked about it. And so when they came to FAMU, that was the first thing that they did, change that name, because they're in college now. And they needed those type of services, but they didn't want to come into the center to get the service. So when you talk about labeling, I just want to mention that.
I really appreciate your time this morning. I think we're still in morning this morning, and hopefully we'll have some conversations like this again. Thank you.
A huge thank you to Dr. Henderson for being here this morning. One of the things that I share with you is that you can only see the world through the world that you know, and that I know that when I called and asked if she would be here, she would know exactly what to do and what to say to our audience today, because ultimately we want to have a dialogue, we want to have a conversation, but we also want to be able to change our worldview or to see our world differently. So I thank you for your expertise and for your knowledge. Before we leave, I just want to remind you, if you would, remember to sign in if you didn't sign in on your way in, if you would sign in on your way out, and also leave your assessment on the table outside as you depart today. Thank you again so much for being here today, and if you'd like, please feel free to come back this afternoon at 5:45, and we'll have the same discussion this afternoon to meet with some of our evening students as well. So thank you so much for being here today.